Hello, welcome. This is episode 71 of So Well Spoken. I'm Moris. With me is Angelus.
Yo.
And Mike.
What's up?
So recently there's been a big reckoning within the gaming community, specifically the fighting game community, which Mike is much more knowledgeable about than myself and Angelus, having been around those circles more. So Mike's gonna take over for this intro story.
Well, COVID continues to be the gift that keeps on giving, and in the interim of people kind of just sitting at home and having to think on themselves and stuff they've been through, a lot of stuff with regards to sexual assault, grooming, and things of the sort has been coming up within the gaming community, in particular. A few of the communities I'm a part of, which is the fighting game community, mostly on the Smash and the things on that side, to kind of give you a broad strokes of what happened. Just like any type of, coming out information once a victim feels finally feels they finally courage to speak up. The ball keeps rolling. So you got people like D1, you got people like Anti, you got D1 and Anti being two prominent black members of the Smash community at that, and the biggest. And usually the first you see to call out like, oh, the Smash community needs to do better, that sort of thing. You also got on the non-Smash side people like Mr. Wizard, who leads EVO, the biggest tournament in the world at this point, since SBO isn't a thing anymore. So yeah, it's a lot, and it's not just fighting games. It's other, like, even in like industry, like in like software, and the Ubisoft has a big thing going on right now. It's a lot, and personally, from my end, seeing it happen and reading all the stories, it was upsetting, and mainly for me because like watching the community for a long time. The stuff was there. Like, you heard rumors. You heard, like, oh, XYZ is doing that. This person's trash. You heard it. But it was always kind of, in a sense, cultivated. It was kind of like, oh, boys is being boys. That type of deal. The same excuse you hear in sports and in other arenas and stuff like that. But I feel like with gaming, especially with fighting games, since they're open invitation, you have a lot of people mixing that probably shouldn't be mixing. A lot of after parties, especially when it comes like to kids and stuff like that. A lot of after parties with kids, people under 18 are going to getting drinks and ended up in unfortunate situations. And it's at a point now where the FGC as a whole, not just Smash, even though Smash got them in most of the accusations and stuff like that, there's still stuff coming out. Just today I learned that Brawl Pro, a Tekken player, was just accused of some misdeeds. Sexual assault and just all around bullying. And so I'm at a point now where I'm like, and I've been talking to some of the TOs on Twitter and seeing what they've been getting up to. When I say TO, I mean tournament organizer. Whew, that was funny. You gotta keep that in. The TOs have been discussing at length about what they should do next. The fighting community as a whole has been kind of discussing what we should do at length. And it's mostly kind of circled around the idea that we probably need, if you're under the age of 18, you need a parental guardian at all times. Beyond that, kill the after party shit. And that's a big part of it too. Because I think last year with EVO, the issue was some women got drugged. That was a big thing last year. And so in my head, I'm just like, dude, I was wanting to go to EVO this year and learn that Mr. Wizard was doing some foul shit, mostly along the lines of just some pedophilic shit. It was like, yo, dude, can the fighting game community really come back for all this? Even if we do try to like change the rules and kind of get these bad actors out of here, like, what can we do? Because, and there's also like the side of me that's kind of cynical. It's like, yo, to be honest, if COVID wasn't a thing, would we even be doing this right now? will everybody be still going to Evo? Because really, what happened was when Mr. Wizard got outed, people were like, "Oh, I'm not going. I'm not commentating. I'm not participating," because Evo went from a offline event to an online event for just a few games. And I'm like, dude, would people even have said anything or just said fuck it if they were still going physically?
At that point, I think it's harder because hotels are booked, rooms are paid for,
Right.
accommodations already made.
So it's like, so while I appreciate everybody doing that, like saying, hey, look, I can't support this XYZ of which calls here. Like, I want to know how much the community is willing to change, because it has to be a huge culture shift. And people have been trying to do something along the lines, and this is what the TOs are discussing. The major thing they're discussing is like a code of conduct across all tournaments, across all communities. So like when, say, if this player says a racist comment or whatever, or does some wild shit, instead of like it being like a dog pile where this tournament says he's uninvited, this person says he's banned, this person says he's banned. It's just like if you just don't follow these specific rules that set out, then you're just banned. So it doesn't look as bad on the community that they were just picking and choosing and stuff like that. Make it seem like we're picking and choosing when we really are trying to be on one accord. But it's like, I don't even know who the visibility of the people that are making these decisions is really low. The few guys I've talked to, especially guys that they work with Final Round a lot. So the guys I've watched their live streams and talk with them, they're on the eye of accountability, on the eye of making sure this is visible. Because what the issue is in the first place is what a lot of these tournaments is like, and the issues they have with the players have with the TOs is that there's no transparency. Even though it's clearly obvious these guys aren't really making money from these events like that, unless you're Evo. And even then, that's a small amount anyways. These are still like grassroots events at the end of the day. So yeah, it's been a lot, and all I want to do is play fighting games, man. Just beat somebody's ass in Tekken or Mortal Kombat or whatever. And I don't want to have to go to an event and have to look over my shoulder. And I'm sure a lot of women don't want to feel that way, or a lot of younger players don't feel like having to go there and feel like there's a predator on the loose. But I think this is just, COVID is like I said, is the big disruptor at this point. Like everything's getting shooken up, and based on how we react is how things go. I hope there is still an Evo. I don't see the point of saying there's not going to be an Evo unless like it's just you have to completely rebrand it. But Mr. Wizard wasn't like the only part of Evo. It was the community at large. So I don't like the defeatism, but I get the cynicism because of just how kind of insular the community is as well. And a lot of people have wanted to go this more quote unquote esports professional route when it came like the code of conduct. And they said they were shut out because we're not listening to the voices that are on the ground, And so I'm hoping for the best. A lot of people have come out, said different things, and I remember James Chen and Ultra David specifically platformed the black voices in FTC because a lot of us feel like we're not being heard, even though it is probably the most minority driven gaming community. There's still a lot of erasure there, especially when it comes to like other players' racism. Like, remember when Low Tier God went transphobic, and then I think her name was Sarah Blast, got called out for saying like black people made me say nigga or something like that. I was just like, bro, what the fuck? And it just blew up into this whole thing, and I'm just like, yo, it's stressful on my end. I just want to play video games, man. And I ain't played a fighting game in like months.
Damn. Cecilia D'Anastasio wrote an article for Wired that mostly talks about the Smash Brothers aspect.
Smash Brothers, yeah, and they're on their own shit.
Yeah, so that all popped off. This is only like week 3 of this storyline. was like this just happened the beginning of this month, where a Smash player alleged to have a relationship with another Smash Smash commentator. I mean, when they were 14 and the commentator was 24. And that was the first story that got like the snowball rolling.
Yeah, and it's not, and that's the thing too. It's not just the women; it's a lot of men that have grown up in the community and are realizing like, hey, this shit wasn't right. So it's not just like a certain demographic that's being targeted. It's like, oh, there's this predatory shit going on. Period. And it all needs to be looked at. It shouldn't just be like, oh, women just crying. Like, no, these are kids that are being groomed on, pretty much.
Yeah, there's like two sides of this that the article points out. That the community itself says a lot of these problems sprout up. The Smash Brothers community, I mean, a lot of these sprout up due to informal structure and multi-generational appeal of the game itself.
Right.
But then there's others who are more critical and say there's too much hero worship in Smash community.
That's the biggest thing I've noticed with the Smash community, and I've noticed that for a long time. And I don't want to dogpile on them, but they're the ones that got most of the news, unfortunately.
Dogpile away.
But the community has always had this stigma, and while the FGC has had this shit too, like, I'm not going to forget Eris's comments on Cross Assault. Love the dude, but that shit was wild, even back then. But with Smash, because of the hero worship shit to it, the 5 melee gods and stuff like that constantly happens with like Leffen and a lot of other players, Mewtwo King. I wish I knew the community like that off the top of my head. I'll know when I see them, but it's like, yo, like, these guys are put on a pedestal, a huge pedestal, and it's not just the players, it's the commentators, it's like the community heads and stuff like that. So they get placed into these positions of power above more than what, you get people that are typically socially awkward and socially deficient, and give them a little bit of power, it's going to run amok. I'm just being honest.
And the Mr. Wizard person you keep referencing, they're one of the main organizers for EVO.
They're have been one of the main organizers
for the big Las Vegas event, which is like the international event, correct?
Yeah, it's the biggest event in the world. Like, games literally get announced there. DLC, season passes, all that stuff gets announced.
And Mr. Wizard was supposedly bribing young boys to strip down in exchange for game tokens.
More than that.
Yeah, I heard there's video around now too, which is disturbing.
I haven't seen that.
I want to see that.
But
god dang, man.
Yeah. That story particularly got me because with Mr. Wizard, the way he acts about stuff always kind of like made me raise the eyebrow. I remember Poke Chop last year was like, if Poke Chop is an ATL player, we down here, we get loud, we get rowdy. It's like a sports event. We into it. And he literally sat there and told Poke Chop to calm down. And everybody was kind of like, nigga, what? Bro, this is what we do. This is how we do. This is how we do. So before, like, that really kind of put me on the radar to him. But when this came out, I was not surprised. Like, and apparently some of the old school, the OG players knew this shit was going on. And the reason why it wasn't heard, I feel, was because of who it came from. Mike Watson, another OG player, got some beef with Mr. Wizard. And so people just kind of wrote it off. But he plain and said, years ago, almost 5 years ago, said, hey, dude, he was like, yo, he was telling kids to strip for tokens. Like, what kind of, who does that? And just because of who it wasn't heard, unfortunately. But, I mean, now we know. And he initially came out with a weak-ass apology. And then the next day, he doubled down on some shit when some more stories came out about him. So, I'm glad he's gone. I think the issue right now when it comes to EVO, when it comes to the leadership with Tom and Tony Cannon, the two brothers that also work with Riot, I think, at this point, who haven't really been the faces of the company as of late, because they've been doing their own thing, is how much they knew was going on. How much they kind of just step away from the FGC as a whole. It's kind of like you don't want to just place blame on people sometimes, but it's just like, did you know this entire time? Like, and you had this guy to be the face of your company, the face of the community, pretty much for all these other people to see. Is this who you had out? But then I'm looking at everybody else like this shit it happens too often, way too often. Not just with the fighting community, with just gaming community in general, comic books, movies. It happens way too often because you got these people in power who are willing just to abuse their power. And it's sad that kids had to be involved in this situation because of fighting games and gaming in general's wide reach to different audiences. And the sad thing is that people are like, well, you need to separate them. And I agree with that, but that's not going to stop anything because Pokemon had its own shit too. And they separate their divisions like cleanly, like juniors, masters, and I think that's juniors and masters and stuff like that. When it comes to like the trading card game and the actual video games and Pokken, I think too. So it's like, where does the buck stop? And how do we figure out what the fuck is actually going on? And in my opinion, I think we gotta get the enablers out. But we got to find out who those are.
Yeah, that's what I say. I don't know. It sounds like I'm not trying to like cast aspersions on the entire community, but it would seem like if you were to get rid of the enablers, you'd probably be getting rid of a large chunk of the community. Because I can't imagine, this kind of shit going down and people just within the community, like being like who are close to the people who are affected and involved, being like, "Oh my god, I didn't know that!" Like, it just seems highly unlikely that their inner circle and their friends stuff didn't know about this, because every time these kind of stories come out, you always have like those 1 or 2 or 3 friends who are like, "Oh yeah, like I've got some more dirt on it, and this is what happened with this person as well." Like, you also have the friends who protect them. So it's like I feel like once you get rid of those individuals who were the ones directly involved in situations like these, the very next thing that people should do is look at their friends and their close confidants, because it's all like chances are really high that they are going to have known about it and have enabled it in some capacity. And it's just like, you can't, give them a pass because, oh, they weren't doing it, but it's like, yeah, but they contributed to it. And so they helped perpetuate it, which is pretty terrible. And then it becomes like a snowball effect, because it's like chances are high they've told some other people, about it, and those people have told other people, and eventually, like all things, like Game of Telephone, like it got out, and so, yeah, like honestly, I would say the gaming community in general, and has this problem when it comes to the treatment of children, women, minorities. Like it's a deep-seated issue within the gaming community, and it does seem to be eradicated, because it's like I hate saying that I'm a gamer at the time, because it's just embarrassing just how immature and just how utterly fucked up individuals are. And it's like, Mike said, like a lot of it stems from this hero worship, like, oh, this person made X game, or this person, works at X company, and it's just like, wow, look at this person. It's like, I don't give a fuck. Like, this person, like, they use that little bit of power to just destroy and just hurt people who look up to them, for lack of a better word. And it's pretty messed up, like we have so many accusations coming out from all these big companies, EA, Ubisoft, like Jesus Christ, like so much from Ubisoft. And it's just like, it's a deep-seated issue. It's a culture on how these people are being treated, and it's just like, people say, oh, this is like, these are isolated incidents. Like, no, it's not, because like I can guarantee you can go to damn near every single major company, gaming company, and you are going to find these same issues in all of them.
We've been hearing these stories for years.
Hell,
like,
decades,
I don't
honestly.
know what's like, how are you not privy to this by now? Like, you must be like really got the blinders on. We've been hearing stuff about companies for years. Oh, XYZ writer left because they were being abused. The whole Gamergate shit. Just what? How many years ago was that? 7 years ago?
Feels
like
it, yeah.
Come the fuck on. Yeah, it's like this stuff's been on the
absolutely.
forefront.
Like I guarantee, if you could talk to women who work in all of these different companies on complete anonymity and like say, hey, you know, what is it like working there? I guarantee you're going to find stories about how, you know, they are like, you know, emotionally abused or taken advantage of by like higher ups. Like it is a reoccurring theme, and it it has to be like eradicated, man. Like it's shit. Like that's all I can really just say is that it's shit and it shouldn't be happening. And it's like people look past it because like, oh well, you know, they really want to work there. Like they make so many excuses for these people, and like, you know, and turn the victim into the person with the issue. Like, oh, it's the victim's fault this is happening to them, and it's complete crap, man.
And the scariest part about it is not just that it happens; it's the people. It's like the players, the gamers themselves. Like, an accusation will come out, and because the gaming community is so in love with trolling and shit like that, the victim gets attacked 24/7 ad nauseum. You know, and so like that culture just makes the shit worse. Like. And that's why so many people don't come out with this type of information. When Auntie got accused or whatever, and nigga went full, basically said, yeah, I did it, but, and like, and consider his situation was pedophilia. It's like, no, nigga, you slept with an underage girl. No matter if she lied or not, that's what the fuck you did. And he got his means to attack the victim. Anybody else that was in the situation. And now he's trying to jump into another gaming sphere just so he can probably do the same shit again. So, and then there's also the case, a lot of this is also what I've heard too, is that people know these stories. They would love to tell them, but it's not up to them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's up to the victims. And so you won't hear a lot of stuff because you have to basically wait on the victim. It's just completely disrespectful to say, well, XYZ did this to that, you know, and it's like, yo, what? I didn't tell you to say that. So you have to sit here and wait. And the best thing about this situation is so many people had to come out and they can get their stories off their chests and stuff like that, that you can do that. That's the whole thing. That's the whole good thing about Me Too, is that it gives you that courage to do that. But it's hard to eradicate when people are silenced like that. And it's just, I don't know, man. I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's been a heavy ass year, and that shit just made it even heavier. It's like, this is some shit I love. And even this is tainted. And the thing is, I knew it was tainted, but you know, it's you know, I it's like, everything I know is tainted, whatever. But then when it just hits you in the face with people with visible faces, especially, I think D1 kind of hurt me the most because of what kind of face he was, specifically for the black community, for the black gamer community that presented himself unapologetically black, instead of, you know, what happened in most gamer nerd cultures or whatever, where they leave their blackness at the door just to fit in. And I love that. But then seeing this is like, bro, what the fuck? Really, dude? The uncomfortable black nerds or whatever that can see you and want to just be like, come out of their shells and stuff like that, and then you take advantage of your position. All right.
And this is just a terrible story all around, what's happening inside these communities. And like, you're aware because you're around those communities. These communities, more so than most gaming communities, have a good contingent of people of color. Like the fighting game community is pretty diverse. And it's like, damn, like there's this one spot in all of gaming where it kind of felt like you could carve out your own space and be comfortable, and then something like this happens.
Right. Definitely. And because and I've always felt like the FGC felt like a minority community. Like the way that you see like the Dota communities, the League of Legends communities, and Counter-Strike communities, it always felt like a minority in that sense. Like every time something bad happens to the FGC, you see people just pile on it. You know what I mean? And so it already felt bad on that end. But then you gotta actually deal with the shit that we actually are doing. So it's like, yo, I can't defend it. I want to so bad because I love the idea of what we are, but I can't. And that's what sucks. Because out of all the gaming communities, especially the competitive communities, we're the most grassroots. We're the one that's most, we pick up our own bootstraps. We run our own shit. We don't too much let companies kind of run things. Whereas you get Riot, who's been in their own bullshit, when it comes to their employees and stuff like that, running League of Legends. Or what happened with Blizzard when the Hong Kong riots were going on, they fired the player. They didn't get the player his money or something like that. You got stuff like that going on. That doesn't too much happen in FGC where companies basically rob the players. If anything, the other people rob each other, you know? But that's the risk of running grassroots. And I'm guessing what we're going on right now, is the risk of running grassroots tournament. There's no vetting process for the people that's in charge. And that's kind of what we need now. The community as it is needs to grow up. It doesn't necessarily need to be corporate because it has its own issues, but it needs to grow up.
And as you mentioned earlier, this isn't the only big misconduct story in gaming. Ubisoft is going through something right now. I was first exposed to this when someone that we knew was outed as assaulting people.
Boy,
which was something. And from that day on, like following that story has led to a lot of people within that company, within Ubisoft, being outed as protecting people who were harassing people. Members of HR themselves being accused of misconduct. A few people have been let go from Ubisoft, including their chief creative officer, the managing director of the Canadian studio, and the global head of HR have all resigned. And you guys have been paying attention to the stories that have been coming out recently about working for Ubisoft by ex-employees.
Yep.
This happened right after the FGC stuff. I couldn't take it anymore, man. I'm sorry. I got a brief whiff. I'm like, you know what? This is the same shit. I'm out. Fuck Ubisoft. Because, Jesus Christ, this just keeps happening, man. Just more stuff.
But man, the stories from those devs. One woman was saying how they had to create like a dogfight simulator in one of the games that eventually got canned. And there was something about having to implement a rape scene that involved the vibrating of a controller.
Whoa.
There was a lot. Ubisoft was doing a whole lot.
Well, yeah, that today stuff. Yeah. I read that today.
I was like, it was Far Cry 5. I was just like, oh my god, bro. Like, what is wrong with y'all?
That was the assumption.
Like, what is wrong with you people, bro? Like, that's what happened.
The funny thing is that Far Cry already had a rape scene in the third game.
Yeah. But I feel like the way this
because it's like,
it's probably like something like really egregious, and they were just like, holy shit.
Exactly, right. Exactly. So it's like, I'm not surprised. When I read that, I thought about that scene. I'm like, yeah, dog, I'm not surprised. They willing to try to push quote unquote buttons to do some shit. Like, shit's unnecessary.
That's what happens.
The controller vibrating?
It's wild.
Oh my god. Imagine that shit was on PS5. You know they got the haptic control shit? They would have loved that shit. Sick
I don't
motherfuckers.
want to think about that, no. But I mean, this is what happens when you have, again, a culture in which, you know, everybody who's not a white straight male is pushed out. Like, they start making shit that like, if you just had a modicum,
they make white boy games.
Yes, basically, you're making white boy games. Like, if you had a modicum of diversity, somebody with voice that you would actually listen to, I guarantee they'd be like, whoa, what the fuck are you doing? Why was that even fucking, like, pitched? Like, what is wrong with you people? But it's like, they get shut out over and over and over again. And it's like, it's so weird to see people utterly shocked at, you know, the shit that comes out. Is like, what do you expect from a whole bunch of straight white men with power? Like what is it that you expect? Like, come on, man.
And it's why the gaming industry can't grow as a quote unquote art, because you're putting the same fucking images out there you've been putting out for the last, let me see, when the PS2 era started, 1999. Oof, almost 20 years. the industry has grown more corporate, and and in certain areas it's trying to include more voices. Like I'm clearly saying, I remember when I played the Outer Worlds and I saw more than 3 black hairstyles, I was shocked. But that's coming from a developer that cares about shit like that. You know, it's a dev. You get these bigger publishers like EA, Ubisoft, etc. You see the same exact problem.
Some ex-employees were saying how heartbreaking it was to have to work on parts of this game that they knew would never make the light of day, and then have their ideas shut down in meetings, and how hard they had to fight to include women protagonists or women selectable characters.
Because you have to have the guy.
Yeah, they were mandated to have white alpha men as protagonists in their games.
Yeah. It's like, hell, they just came out with a story about how Bayek from Assassin's Creed Origin was actually not supposed to be the main character. He was supposed to die pretty early in the game, and you play as Aya for the rest of the game. Or is it Ava? Whatever her name is. Aya. And it's like, they canceled that because they're like, oh, nobody wants to play as a woman. And it's like, you don't know that because you never tried it. Like, what the hell? And that's something that has always bothered me, is that, you know, that is the excuse that gets levied over and over and over again. And like, if a game fails that has a male character, it's never because the main character was a guy. There's always some reason, you know, X, Y, Z, A, B, C reason why the game failed. But if a game fails that has a female character, all of a sudden it's because it was a woman as the main character. That was the central and only reason why this game failed. Not our marketing, not that the gameplay sucked, none of that. It's always immediately because it's a woman. And to me, that's really wild. And this is especially crazy coming from this industry that always cries and nags and complains about, you know, artistic vision, quote unquote, and, you know, forced diversity. Because like in the game Assassin's Creed Odyssey, the main character was supposed to be Cassandra, the woman, but they made Axios, a male character, playable because they were like, oh well, you know, we might need to put him in there because they don't want to play as a woman. And it's like, it's so funny, you know, that they did that, concerning the fact that they always complain when the reverse happens. Like if they introduce a female playable character, people start crying about, oh, forced diversity, and oh, what about artistic vision? And it's like they're completely silent when they just shoved Axios as a playable character down everybody's throat instead of just leaving it as Cassandra. And if you actually played the game, like, you can clearly tell the entire story was about Cassandra and was made for Cassandra, and this random dude named Axios just was tacked on there. It's I had to imagine how frustrating it is, you know, being a person of color or a woman or, you know, LGBTQ, making these games, and you have these ideas and you have these character designs and things like that. And you're like, I would like to put this in the game, and they tell you, no, nobody's going to buy that. Nobody likes it because it's not straight white male, essentially. And it's just like, oh God, man, like, this is why I never want to work in the game industry, because like I'd probably smack somebody myself. But it's got to be frustrating, like, to see your ideas and the things that, you know, and you trying to push for diversity and trying to push for different perspectives and tell different stories, and it gets shut down over and over again, so that we get the same perspectives, or worse, we get, you know, the perspective of a straight white male trying to tell the stories of other people's struggles. And it's just like, it's so annoying. It's just like, there are some things that are better left. There are many things that are better left for other people to tell. They're like, just stop.
Like every demographic and every group only has so many stories to tell. And like Mike was saying, like for the past 20 years, we've seen every story that straight white men could come up with. And they're retreading this ground instead of embracing the fact that women want to break into this industry. And so effectively, we're denied the perspective of like half of humanity. Like the nuance of the woman's perspective is completely absent from gaming almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm still seeing brown hair white guy with a beard shooting people, third person, for like 20 years. It's like, yo, dude, we about to go to a whole new console generation. This is what you want to start out with? Like, I'm tired. It's
It
exhausting.
really is.
Like, dude, and the fact this is not new. You know, I remember seeing that thread on a certain website about San Andreas,
Oh yeah, I remember that.
which admittedly was not telling an original story because Grand Theft Auto doesn't do original stories. It does compilations of original stories that somehow work and sometimes don't. But seeing the reaction to to San Andreas a long time ago told me what the community thought and what more than enough those people who are probably in the industry now are thinking about those types of stories. They don't give a fuck. So I don't. That's why we're not seeing this shit. San Andreas was a simple ass story. It was just like pieces of Boys in the Hood, Men's Society, and a whole bunch of hood movies combined in one. That's it. It shouldn't have been that big of a deal, but it was because it was black.
Gamers, quote unquote, can relate to black, quote unquote, hood life, and it's like, and then they would talk about, oh, but I want to play a game about Italians because they dress up in suits, and it was all honorable. It's like, bro, what are you talking about? Time off?
Oh, a mafia,
like, bro. They
yes.
Mafias
oh my
killing
god,
women and children. Like, what are you talking about? Honorable, like.
Well, Mafia 3 came out and that happened. I was like, bro, y'all gotta be serious. Like, really?
It's so annoying because it's just like, like they fetishize about these romance ideas. Like, oh wow, I can't relate to this black person, but I can relate to killing people as a fucking a nameless character going around in a town just AKing anybody. And it's like, what are you talking about, man? You make no sense right now. And it's like, so like you can't relate, to a character CJ who is poor and struggling. He wants to be better for himself, but you can relate to some random white guy who like his entire fucking character is kill everybody in a revenge story. Like, bro, like what? You live at home with both of your parents and they have a really good marriage. Like, what are you talking about? Like, get out of here. You have a basement. Like, get the fuck out of here. What revenge? Like, how do you relate to revenge stories like that? Get out. And it's not even like, even past that, like when you get to trying to tell stories about other cultures and things like that, like these companies and like these developer groups that are again overwhelmingly straight white male, they always center a white person in those stories. Like Resident Evil fucking 5. like that was my biggest issue with Resident Evil 5. It's like, hey, the story's gonna take place in Africa, but it's
that shouldn't have been.
But here's this white guy, and it's just like, bro, like come on. And
Shovel was added on last minute,
very last minute, and it's like people were like, oh, that's that's fine because there are white people in Africa, and I'm just like, well, number one, Africa's a continent, but past that, like you can find black people anywhere in any and everywhere, but anytime we ask for representation, all of a sudden, oh, that's not historically accurate. Like, okay, man, get the fuck out of here, bro.
To be honest, the white people that are pepping in RE5 are really distracting. I'm not gonna lie. I'm like, yo, I felt like I was shooting one of the Ganados from fucking Resident Evil 4 sometimes. I'm like, bro, why are you here? Like, this doesn't make sense, but whatever. It took me out of it. I was like, I guess this is what y'all wanted to do, but yeah, that was, yeah.
It's funny that you brought up that San Andreas, the foundation for that story is just paying homage to black films from like the 80s and 90s. Because it really demonstrates how immature the gaming industry is. Because San Andreas is one of the best games that came out that year.
That was a good year for gaming too.
It was, and those films that it's alluding to are all very
good.
Yeah, they were received well critically and by audiences. So it's like, where's this disconnect happening? All I'm seeing is that you're just not ready to accept black people into your hobby space.
Yeah.
That's what it sounds like.
That's what it is, honestly. It's just, they think that, gaming is for them and like it's up to them to dole out a little bit to the other groups. Like, okay, you can have this, this, and this. And if these other groups are like, no, like we're not going to take what you're giving us. We're going to come into this as well because we've been here from the beginning as well. They feel like they're being oppressed, and this is like, that's how it always is. The oppressor feels like they're oppressed when other people ask for some equality.
Only white dude I want to play right now is probably Geralt from fucking The Witcher, and that's because I just like Geralt's character. That's all I care about. And even then, there's like a bunch of white people in that game. A bunch of white people. To the point where I watched a TV show and I saw some black women. I was like, whoa, what? Hold on. I don't remember.
Is this the same game?
Yeah, it's just like, is the book have black people in it or something like that? Did I miss something?
Yeah.
Because only stand-in for minorities was like fucking like the dwarves and the elves and shit. So it's like, oh, which is usually the case.
Mm.
Oh yeah, I had to explain to my girlfriend that the goblins and fucking Harry Potter were basically Jewish stand-ins. That was fun.
Do you want to talk about Nick Cannon?
Hey yo, fuck Nick Cannon.
Since you're talking about anti-Semitism?
Yeah, I want to get into this.
Talk your shit, King.
Bruh. Nick Cannon said some of the most dumbest shit I ever heard. It's not the first time I've heard it. Nick Cannon has been on this like Hotep shit for a minute when he went back to Howard and said he's going to school. And that's really got me curious as to what they're teaching over there at Howard University. Because, boy, that's not a good representation. This man got on his podcast and hit you with the most Hotep-y shit. Like, I've heard in barbershops, on the side of the streets, in 5 Points. Like, some just the wildest shit.
So you're saying that Nick Cannon went to Howard when he just had to go to, like, the corner store?
Literally. He could have went to the barbershop and talked about this. And you know what? The funny thing is, the way it's framed, it's like I was at a barbershop. And I'm getting my hair cut. And the conspiracy theorist dude came in and was just spouting shit. Like, that's literally what he said. Basically, what Nick Cannon was getting up to, I believe, I'm not completely sure, that he is of the Black Hebrew Israelite religion, sect of Christianity. It's weird because, and the best way I've been explained, so I got somebody in my sphere right now that's learning about it, and it's very fucking annoying. What it is, it says it platforms black people as descendants of the original Jews that were delivered out of Egypt by God, right? And they do this by taking parts of the Bible that sound similar to what we had to go through in America. And the main reason I hate the belief system is because, for one, it platforms. It's like, the one thing I got from this is like, man, damn, maybe Terry Crews had the wrong people around him, and that's why he said what he's fucking said. Because if Ice Cube is saying this shit, Nick Cannon saying this shit, I can see why he's talking about black supremacy, because that's what basically the religion is. It's a form of what would be a form of black supremacy. So they believe in shit like white people being melded into fish and it makes them monsters and shit like that. They believe that Judaism was appropriated by white people, but that doesn't make sense considering where Judaism started. It's very ahistorical, very, very anti-intellectual, and it's an erasure of, it's anti-Semitic by nature, because you're just missing a whole group of people based on some random belief that you just came up with that's completely contrary to how history actually is. And that doesn't include the homophobia and everything else. That just includes like the benefiting and the manipulation of black pain and black lack of identity, and anti-Semitism. That's like the main forefront of what I've seen from the belief system. And that's what Nick Cannon basically was going on about, saying that the white Jews were taking over everything. Basically white supremacist talking points, but in a black Hotep box. And it's like, yo, this shit's dumb. And seeing how many people co-sign that shit, I've lost complete faith in humanity.
The comments Nick Cannon made, he was doing a podcast with Griff from Public Enemy. And I was watching it, and one of the first things he says is that compassion comes from melanin. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then he says, those without it are a little less than. And then he goes on for a little while longer and he says something about the Illuminati, and that's when I knew he was completely off the rails.
Oh, I wouldn't know he was off after the first few sentences. I'm like, that's not how we've kind of evolved. We evolved based on our location, but sure.
Yeah, it's very anti-science. They don't need science to explain the world to them.
Clearly. You don't need... And the thing is, too, is like the base of the belief system, when you get to Hebrew stuff, it's like, dude, we're so far removed from, like, genetically speaking, from that time that even if you were like 2% Hebrew, you're basically a Gentile at this point. It doesn't even matter. So what are you coming from? But you do that to erase the people that have gone through Holocaust and continuous oppression. It's basically like playing fucking oppression Olympics for no fucking reason, just to put yourselves on top of this pedestal. A divine pedestal like that. So it's when he got fired, I was probably one of the few people I saw on my timeline. I was like, I don't care. I don't care. I don't care how fast it was. I honestly wish white people got fired as fast as Nick Cannon did, in certain cases. But like this, I'm not about to fight for this man.
Nick Cannon said, how could his views be anti-Semitic if black people are the true Hebrews? That's something to think on.
Hoteps, man. They're fucking plague.
And like you're saying, this is a group that's historically oppressed. Like, why there's this anti-Semitic slant in some minorities communities is really just backwards.
I will definitely say the reason why it's so prevalent in the black community is a large part of it is due to Farrakhan. Like, he got to get out of here yesterday, man. Like, he's been spouting anti-Semitic shit for like the past 30 years. 40, fuck it. Go back to the 60s. It's about there. Like, he's been on a big anti-Semitic tip for that long, and people just let it go, really. And it's just like, well, number one, people let it go because they don't know better, I guess. And secondly, it's just like, he's this, civil rights leader. So it's just like, they don't want to be like, hey, man, you're kind of like anti-Semitic. But it's just
because it makes sense on a surface level.
But it doesn't. It's just...
No. When I say on a surface level, it's like more so like, this person's white and Jewish. There's a lot of white Jewish rich people. I'm not going to separate the white from the Jewish part. So I'm just going to assume that it's because he's white and Jew.
Yeah, so it doesn't make any sense, man.
It doesn't. but if you're not going to be nuanced enough to be like, well, this person's like most people's proximity to whiteness, like with light skinned people with colorism, with lighter skinned minorities in general, your proximity to whiteness gives you a certain set of privileges. It doesn't matter what religion, and you're eating up white supremacist talking points just because of their proximity to whiteness. You're not separating the two. You can talk about that. You can talk about white Jews' proximity to whiteness. You can talk about that. That is a topic worth talking about, because we talk about it with every other person and minority, right? Mm-hmm. But when you don't have that conversation, or you don't frame it that way, it looks like white Jew is the enemy every single time.
Yeah, and a big failing of this is that they don't talk about how the issue is the white supremacy. Because for a lot of these people, the issue is that they're Jewish. Right,
exactly. They don't talk about that. And when you don't talk about that, you get the stupid shit. You take the whole... Because one thing you're not bringing up Middle Eastern Jews. You're not bringing up black Jews, like literal African Jews that are out there. Imagine what they feel like. I'm actually like literally Jewish, man. I'm like, what the fuck? It's a form of erasure. And a form of like complete disrespect and bigotry. Like, period. I won't call it racism. Like, I don't know why people want to toss out racism like it's like that. Just call it bigotry like it is. It's a catch-all. It's easy. It's just bigotry, plain and simple. And the fact that so many people, black people, co-sign with this dude, I'm like, bruh, if I was like not black, I'll be side-eyed every single one of y'all. Like, the fuck?
Why don't you side-eye them? Oh no, because you had said if I wasn't black, I would side eye. I was like, why don't you just do that now? Even if you're,
I do it now. I'm doing it now. But the thing is, being black, I feel like the one thing we do have as Black Americans specifically is a sort of unity that was formed under our oppression. And so that unity is a form of privilege that a lot of cultures that aren't not cultures, a lot of people, minorities in the States don't have, especially Latinx or Asian, because, you know, you can be Japanese, you can be Korean, you can be Filipino, you can be Venezuelan, you can be from Central America, you know, Mexico. There's different parts of it, you know, and they're not all exactly together. But we, because of our unique situation, we have a certain kind of unity. And that's why our issues are often brought out to the forefront, because we have that unity. So we're unofficially the leaders of any movement for some fucking reason, unfortunately. And so with that comes a certain kind of responsibility not to do shit like this. And that's why I was disappointed in Canon, because like, you are a black person with a certain pull and a certain kind of influence. Like, you can't be saying shit like this. It's fucking wrong, for one. And two, how does that look to other people? And then when you bring out the droves of people that agree with you, how does that look to them? It's divisive. Was kind of what I'm getting at. And that's the main thing I was upset at. It's like, why would you think this is okay?
Okay, we're almost at the hour mark. Meg Thee Stallion got shot.
Man, fuck Tory Lanez.
Well, that was easy.
On July 12th,
Black man fucking up again, dog. God damn.
The LAPD received a call about a disturbance in the Hollywood Hills. And they located SUV, found Tory Lanez, Meg Thee Stallion, and a unidentified woman in the vehicle. When they searched the SUV, they discovered a gun. Tory Lanez was arrested and charged on one felony count of carrying a concealed weapon. So in this was a little bit of a muck up. No one really knew what was happening for a little while. We knew that Tory Lanez was in jail for a gun charge, and we knew that Meg was in the hospital.
Yeah.
And then it came out that she was shot. She made an announcement that she was shot a couple times during the incident, but she didn't really elaborate beyond that. And since then, it has been floated out there by, I believe, TMZ that Tory Lanez may have been the one who shot Meg.
Specifically in the foot.
I mean, he's only 5'2", and she's like 5'9", so that's all he can aim for. It's really wild, because what was the statement? Like, the argument was like, he was doing it to prevent her from leaving. It's like, that's the craziest way to prevent someone from leaving. Like, hey, let me just shoot you to prevent you from leaving. Like, you could have just, I don't know, grabbed her hand and said, don't leave. But whatever. What little semblance of career he has is probably gone.
Yo, my homeboy is a Tory Lanez stan.
Oh, I didn't even know those things existed.
Yeah, they do. I was
crazy.
surprised. And he was like, bro, I can't fuck with him after that. And I was like,
wow. He lost his fan.
The one is 7. But like, yeah, he had a deal for his radio thing that he was doing, COVID quarantine radio. That's probably going to be gone soon.
He fucked all his little goodwill up from calling
he really did
about the Gucci bag, dog. He lost all that goodwill.
He's pretty fucked, and it's like I feel like, especially like the South isn't really going to fuck with him too much, because like Texas has a pretty sizable pull on Southern music. Obviously not as big as Atlanta, but you know, it still has a pull, and it's like
classical pull. Yeah,
like Megan is pretty popular throughout all of Texas. From Dallas all the way to Houston, fucking even San Antonio, where there are like 6 black people total. Like, she is hugely popular in her home state, and it's like, yo, you just shot her. It's like, bro, nobody is gonna want to fuck with you, and people are gonna be like, hey man, don't be fucking with Tory Lanez if you want features from me or you want beats from me. Like, he's gonna have to go back to Toronto and just like be a local artist there. Like,
he had just gotten together with Meg, who would probably help his career more than any single he's put out so far. And he shot her twice on the foot. One of Meg's producers put a message on Twitter saying, "Count your fucking days," directed at Tory Lanez.
Oh, shit.
The message was since deleted. And it seems like there's more details about the story that we still don't even know yet.
I feel sorry for Megan because like she's been going through a lot these past 2 years.
She really has, man. Damn. Like she's gonna develop PTSD at the rate this is going for her, man. And she's just out here trying to make some music and just be happy, man. Like, damn.
It's like she just had a big hit with fucking Beyonce. Like she can't even just enjoy that shit. And during COVID, like yo, like you had a big hit during COVID. You living good. You know trying to keep safe and shit. And this nigga, this short ass nigga. Bruh. Hey, yo, fuck Tory Lanez, bruh. Jesus Christ. I hope she doing alright.
Yeah. Tory Lanez been acting real different since he got his fake hair, man. Like, ever since he got that new hairline, he's been acting real unfamiliar. Like, hey, man, humble yourself. You're like a Xerox, like a shitty Xerox copy of Drake anyway. So, like, humble yourself, bro.
What's your favorite Tory Lanez song?
Shit. The fact that I actually know some is wild. I'll probably say Honda Civic. It's a very old song he dropped when he like first was starting out making music.
See, that's making me reconsider getting a Honda Civic.
The Tory Lanez Association.
Get
a Cadillac, bro. I don't know. Don't listen to me, bro.
I'm not. I'm not. Like he said, I was like, excuse me. Well, how does that fix my problem?
I mean, Tory Lanez to make a song about Cadillacs. So
I will never get another Cadillac. I'll never look at Cadillacs the same. Just with disgust.
I feel that.
I'm pretty sure Cadillacs don't want that endorsement anyways.
I'm pretty sure that Cadillac needs a so well-spoken endorsement. It helped boost their stock, really.
Oh, I'm talking about Tory Lanez endorsement.
Oh, nobody cares about that guy. Except for your friend. Like,
well, not anymore, apparently. He said, I can't follow him no more. I was like, oh, and this dude, nigga, used to blast Tory Lanez. I'm like, bruh.
Didn't know he had music to blast.
I was like,
it's like such a crazy sentence, blasting Tory Lanez music.
He does. Like, you get in the car with, like, bro, we go to the joint or whatever. It's like, yo, fam, Tory Lanez? I'm like,
I like how he's aware that he can't play Tory Lanez around other people.
That's good. That's a good friend.
It was funny.
Because you know he's still going to listen to him.
I already know. I know.
Oh, definitely.
I know.
He ain't gonna stop.
Once you close the door and get out the car, you're like, all right, he's gone.
Bro, I don't know a single Tory Lanez song. I was gonna reference one, but I realized I don't know.
Only one I like is Love. And that's about it.
You got.
Did he ever put out an album he's put
out 3 albums.
And a bunch of mixtapes.
Yeah, he's put out 3 albums and like 4. Well, not 4, but like 4 of each series of mixtapes. So he's got the Chicks tape, which is the R&B one. Then he's got New Toronto, which is the rap mixtapes. He's put out 4 of each. Well, out 3 for Toronto.
Angelus knows so much about this.
Hey, bro, I know. I have Wikipedia knowledge, bro. I know everything, man. It doesn't help me get a job.
That was really impressive.
Yeah. So he's got Chicks. He's got 4 Chicks tapes and 3 New Toronto mixtapes.
And then 3 studio albums.
3 studio albums.
And I haven't heard any song from him.
Don't worry, you're not missing anything.
It's mid.
It is. It is a quintessential definition of mid. Like,
it's like having Chris Brown and Drake on the same track.
I mean,
and it's still mid.
Basically, what it is. Like
it's still mid.
Yeah,
you know how No Guidance was kind of like a bop. No, when Tory's like, nah.
I mean, you know, he was a very huge. I don't want to say he was a huge fan of Drake, and he saw Drake as his quote unquote rival, so he tried to sound just like him. You know, do the singy rap thing, and yeah, that's his entire.
He ain't got
story.
He ain't got the Drake assembly line.
Is Tory Lanez gonna die?
No,
his career might a little bit. What little bit of
if
career?
If Tekashi 6ix9ine ain't dead, then I don't think Tory Lanez is going to.
Tekashi 6ix9ine didn't shoot no one in the foot. Definitely not Meg.
He snitched on a lot of quote unquote gangbangers.
That's true.
That is very true. He's still alive. He's still out here making music.
Which makes me question said gangbangers to be honest.
Don't put that evil on us.
I'm just saying. Like,
don't have to redirect their hate to us. Let them focus on 6ix9ine.
They need to focus on 6ix9ine. I wouldn't focus on me either. The fuck? Hey.
I don't question your gangster. Unlike Mike, I know you guys are the real deal.
I think the moral of the Meg story is stay inside in quarantine. Stop trying to go to parties.
No, that's not the real message. The real message is ladies, don't be trying to holler. Don't let some 5'2" dude holler at you.
Don't holler at nobody.
Heightism now.
I'm only
the
5.
heightism comes out.
Bro, I'm only 5'8", so I can't really talk shit.
I'm 6'2", so.
Ooh, look at this guy.
Can't even dunk.
Yes, I can.
What are you doing with all that?
Whoa, hold on.
Can't even dunk on a regulation
Don't
size
even
rim.
do that.
That's crazy.
Don't even do that.
Mike ain't got
I
no
was dunking on regulation rims.
This man
It's
was,
been a while.
Man was dunking on some fucking 8-inch rims. Like, eh.
Nah. We played regulation ball.
And JC was saying how someone in his office asked him if he played basketball just because he's tall. And then JC said he basically told me I was tall for nothing.
I got that a lot. Funny thing is, I'm like, dude, I did play basketball when I was like in high school and middle school, but I'm like, I just didn't know it was nothing I wanted to do, fam. And I'm only like 6'2". I ain't like fucking gargantuan or nothing like that.
Hey, man.
Like, jeez.
That's tall enough.
Tory Lanez isn't 5'2", is he?
Yeah, he's
Might as well be.
He's really short.
He's shorter than Prince?
Did you see that Sway video or whatever? Where he
tiny,
got up
bro.
and his height didn't change out of a chair? That's how short this man is.
He is really tiny, bro. He's a short dude. Like, if you ever look at a photo of him with his entourage, he's always the shortest person in the group. Every time.
SoWellspoken.com.
Log in.
So Well Spoken Pod on Facebook, IG, and Twitter. Leave a review. Share with a friend.
R.I.P. John Lewis.
Yes. A legend. And it was really interesting to see the entirety of the Republican Party continually fuck up when it came to talking about his legacy and shit like that. You have people like Marco Rubio who put the entire wrong black politician in his photo while saying "Rest in peace, John."
I did not see that.
Yeah,
and I'm glad I didn't.
Like he put a photo of him shaking hands with Elijah Cummings, and he's like, "R.I.P. John." I was like, Jesus Christ, man. I was like, you guys are just like, the Republican Party continues to show just how much they just don't like black people, man. It's like that is a very simple thing to just get it. Like, just run it by. Oh, you don't have any black interns. Run it on the internet. Like,
you know they got the one.
Like, go to Google Images and type it John Lewis, bro. Like, it's not that hard. Like, and then you had Trump, who didn't like. So tradition and things say that when a senator passes, you lower the flag to half mast for the day of and the day after. And they didn't lower it for 24 hours. It was like 16 hours and they raised it back up. And it's just like, and then he didn't make any statement on it until like the next day while he was golfing. I was just like, I loathe this man with every fiber of my being, you know. It's just like,
I would be upset if I dedicated my life to expanding voting rights to every citizen in America and then having these politicians who are trying to undo all my life's work saying RIP to me.
Yeah, right? Like,
I'm haunting the motherfucker out of them. I'm being honest.
That's actually one thing I'm kind of annoyed that, like, they're not, like, there's not more pushback on that, you know? It's like, this is what I hate about America's view on, like, death and things like that. It's like, nobody wants to say anything because it's like, oh, this isn't the time, you know? But it's like,
yeah,
you have an entire political party who has been, like, you know, politically and even sometimes like verbally and personally shitting on this man and his legacy and what he has done, you know, his entire life. And like, nobody wants to bring it up and be like, well, you guys are like crazy hypocritical because you have been constantly pushing to undermine his entire legacy. But now you're saying rest in peace now. And it's like, nobody wants to bring it up because it's like, oh, well, this is not the time. This is the time to just talk about, you know, John Lewis and what he did. And just like, there's never going to be a time because that makes you uncomfortable. And by you, I mean damn near basically every politician there that is white. And it's just like, it's frustrating.
4 months of lockdown.
Yeah.
There is rumblings of a vaccine by September. Rumblings. Don't get your hopes up. There's just rumblings.
Definitely not get my hopes up. And it probably will cost you an arm and a leg. So, you know, if you don't have insurance because you lost your job because of COVID and you can't get the treatment for COVID
and the distribution is going to be probably trash because of who we got in charge. But
yeah,
there's a chance.
Okay, so this is going to sound so terrible for me to say.
All right, so let's end the podcast after you say this.
No, so here's the thing. I really hope that like Canada, Germany, or some other country discovers the vaccination first. Like I think we need to lose that soft power because number one, like all these other countries are going to get it for their people for like basically like $5. You know, like we have a couple companies in America like Moderna, whatever. Like they want to charge $3,200 per person, which is crazy. But it's like I hope that these other countries develop the vaccine and patent it first, so that number one, America can't fucking get a gross profit margin off of it. Number one, and number two, they can distribute it themselves to the American people through their government or whatever way they can. But I want America to lose its soft power a little bit because I feel like we need to lose as much soft power as possible so that other countries can stop being so pushed around by America, you know? And so like I would really like to see another company develop the vaccine, patent it, and tell America, all right, hey, you know, we'll sell it to you for, you know, X amount and get it to the citizens that way. Because I honestly feel like we have a much better chance as a country for like, say, Canada to discover the vaccine and get it at an affordable price because it's Canadian versus hoping that an American, you know, pharmaceutical company discovers it and they're charged us an arm and a leg. Like, I'm not like, I'm sorry, but 3,200, there is absolutely no justification for that, considering the fact that an absolute shit ton of tax money has been going into developing this vaccination. And it's like, as such, we should not be paying astronomical amounts of money for a vaccination that we have essentially already paid for.
We probably shouldn't be paying anything at all, to be honest.
We shouldn't, because like again, like even like the company I just said, Medina, or whatever their name is, they've already they were already in talks with other countries about how much they're going to be charging the vaccination, and it's way less than what they're charging American citizens. That's why I would love for other fucking pharmaceutical companies from other countries to be the ones that discover it, because damn, like we deserve that. But I still want to get a little. Though.
I'm sorry.
No,
it could get a little nightmarish if America discovers the vaccine.
Yeah,
and then puts it behind a very large paywall.
Because it's gonna like, and that's the thing. Like they put it behind a large paywall, you're gonna have a absolutely large subset of Americans who can't afford it, so they're not going to get it, which means COVID continues to spread, and it's going to disproportionately affect low-income communities, and even more so low-income communities of people of color. And it's just like, that's why I would really love to see an outside country get this and sell it directly to the government for like dirt cheap, and that gets, you know, distributed to the people.
Wear a mask, wash your hands,
social distance,
stay away from Tory lanes.
Yeah, that too.
So until next time, try not to die, I guess.
Jesus Christ.
God damn, bro.
Is that too heavy?
Yeah,
no.
Man. Like,
jeez. I'm going to go play Call of Duty. Good night.
I'm going to go play Ghost of Tsushima.
All right, later.